wrenching fight over an 11-month-old baby boy, a fight that has brought in everyone from the president to the Pope. Little Charlie Gard is critically ill. His doctors over in England say there's nothing more to be done, but his parents say they are being blocked from making life or death decisions for their son, including trying an experimental treatment from an American doctor. Here's ABC's Lindsay Janis.
The 4th of August 2016 was the best day of our lives. The day that Charlie was born.
It's been a battle that seems interminable for Connie Yates and Chris Gard.
He's a little trooper and he's a soldier. He will fight, and he'd fight to the very end, and he's still fighting, but we're not allowed to fight for him anymore.
A battle not just against the disease ravaging their son's body, but against their own government.
Our parental rights have been stripped away. We can't even take our own son home to die.
This is their 11-month-old son, Charlie. His doctors say he cannot see, hear, move, nor cry, born with a rare form of mitochondrial depletion syndrome, a genetic disease that has left him severely brain damaged. Hey. His parents live in the UK and want him to undergo an experimental treatment here in the US. But doctors and multiple courts have said his condition is too grave and it would be cruel to keep him alive.
We feel that it should be our right as parents to decide to give him a chance at life.
It's ignited a fierce debate over a hospital's right to treat its patient as it sees fit and a parent's right to make decisions for their own child.
It's an unimaginable position for anybody to be in.
Their plea gaining global attention. The Pope extending the family his support. The Vatican's Children's Hospital offering treatment. And President Trump tweeting, "If we can help little Charlie Gard, we would be delighted to do so."
Save Charlie Gard! Save Charlie Gard!
Parents know their children best.
We are there 24 hours a day, and if he was suffering, if he was in pain, and we couldn't sit there.
In the UK, it is not uncommon for courts to side with hospitals over parents.
The doctor's argument is that this child is suffering. I haven't seen any evidence that the child is suffering.
Now a sign of hope for Charlie's family.
We're quite happy with today's outcome.
A British court giving the family a new chance to provide evidence that experimental treatment could in fact help their terminally ill son. This U.S. doctor, Dr. Michio Hirano, says there could be a 10% chance his muscle strength could improve. Today, the doctor arriving by Charlie's side to assess if anything can be done.
We can see a variety of symptoms. Patients develop muscle weakness, they can develop nerve damage, they can develop seizures.
Dr. Mary Kay Koenig is a specialist in mitochondrial disease.
The earlier you're showing symptoms, the more severe the outcome is for the patient.
High five.
Dr. Hirano has tried this before.
Say hi. Hi.
5 years ago with a family here in Baltimore. Their son, Art Jr., was 14 months old when they noticed something was wrong.
I had a strong intuition that something was wrong. I was right.
At his worst point, how bad was it?
He was lying in a hospital bed, and the most he could do sometimes was move his head just a little bit to say no. He couldn't even shed tears.
He had multiple fractures in both of his legs and his arms, and he couldn't cry.
Art and Olga Estopanan's son was diagnosed with a similar mitochondrial depletion syndrome. Just like Charlie, doctors told his parents there was little chance for survival.
You were told there was no hope and no cure.
Right. It was terminal, and average age for these children was 3 years old.
He was basically dying. He was dying on us.
But what his parents call a miracle appeared in the form of a pioneering experimental treatment called nucleoside therapy. Art would be the first child in the U.S. ever to get the treatment. Dr. Hirano administered their first trial, along with other doctors at Johns Hopkins Hospital.
We were very lucky to his geneticist, Dr. Ada Hamash. They're like, there's hope for this. Let's go ahead and try. And I will never, ever in my mind forget how special that woman is.
Little Art went from being on the brink of death to gaining some motor functions back.
The iPad, I would have had to grab his hand and his arm and push the buttons for him. And you can see, I mean, he's in an odd position. He doesn't have his tray here, but he knows the code. He enters it, and off he goes to YouTube.
And he can say iPad. He can say iPad. Talking.
Yes. He says, Mommy, Daddy. He's a determined little boy.
A movie on his iPad, calling out to his parents. The small joys of childhood they never thought Art Jr. could have. But even with all his progress, Art and Olga are quick to note that the treatment isn't a cure.
We have like 6 alarms. He has like 8 different machines to keep him alive. And no matter in the middle of the night when we hear one of the alarms, we both jump up and there you go.
There's one right now. His foot or he kicked it off, one of the two.
And in the middle of our interview, a feeding break that accompanies the 3 to 4 treatments he gets every day.
Unfortunately, right now, there are no therapies that we know of that can stop the progression of a mitochondrial disease.
Charlie Gard's doctors say that he's not going to get any better and that this treatment will only make him suffer more.
With all due respect to them, what I encourage those doctors to do is to educate themselves. See how these experimental medications will create the enzymes that that little Charlie needs so he could get stronger like my son.
This family says they'd rather have Art Jr. as he is than not have him at all.
When baby Charlie's doctors say that this treatment would only cause him more suffering, you laugh. Yeah, you don't believe that that's the case?
Of course not. I mean, it hasn't caused our son suffering.
The Estopanons say Charlie deserves the same chance their son was able to get.
It's difficult sometimes to put yourself in that place. But if your own child, there was one little hope, wouldn't you do anything to save that baby?
We're hopeful and confident that Charlie may get his chance now.
But the attention tonight is on Charlie's brain condition. Can the proposed treatment help reverse the disease, or is there already too much damage? Their assessment expected to be completed by Thursday.
So he hasn't got anything to lose. We know that we've done, even if it doesn't work, which I think it will, we know that we've done everything that we can for him.
Tonight, as baby Charlie is kept alive by a ventilator, his fate rests in the hands of a British judge.
How do you deal with this deadline hanging over you?
What other options do we have? Charlie's our son, we love him, and we will fight to the bitter end for him.
For Nightline, I'm Lindsay Janis in Baltimore.